Hi, friends. With the new Space Marine game on the horizon, I'd figured it would be fun to go over the events of the first game, as well as some other things in order to prepare for the long awaited sequel. But before we actually start, it should be noted that it's a bit contentious if the lore of the game is actually canon with the quote unquote real 40k lore, since some things do contradict the actual lore. However, the game's really fun, so who really cares that much? Plus, the biggest lore crime is how weak they made the plasma pistol and bolter feel. Psh, but you know what? After 13 years, let's revisit the events of the first Space Marine game and get hyped for the sequel. The events of the game are known as the Grimskull War, and it was a massive orc invasion of the Forge World of Graia. If you don't know, Forge Worlds are basically just entire planets dedicated to manufacturing weapons, equipment, or whatever the Imperium might need. Graia is a prolific Forge World in the Segmentum Tempestus that primarily manufactured weapons. Notably, it has some Titan manufactorums. Another notable thing about Graia that I need to add before getting into the events of the game is that a little fella named Inquisitor Drogon these nuts, am I right? Came to the world in order to work on a weapon called the Psychic Scourge. This handy little device was able to target specific species by tracking their warp signatures, and then it would blast their organs like a Nacho Bel Grande. In his testing, Drogon was able to get the device to work on many Xeno species, including the Orcs, Tau, Tyranids, and a few others. During the device's development, Orc war boss Grimskull invaded Graia with the massive Orc Wah! Grimskull was after a large amount of weapons, Daka, that the planet produced, one such weapon being the Titan Invictus. Upon arrival, instead of destroying the orbital defense guns and manufactorums like orcs usually do, Grimskull's boys prioritized capturing these assets, demonstrating that Grimskull was no dim skull. You see, Grimskull was smarter than the average orc with a above average noggin in that grim skull of his. In response to Grimskull's Wah! Graia sent out a distress call to Imperial forces, and since the world was so important, many answered, including the famed Ultramarines. However, the first to heed the call was the Cadian 203rd. Since the Orcs had control of the orbital defense systems, only one guard unit was able to make it planetside, and they were left without reinforcements. Without support, their numbers were thin as the battle waged on. Of the casualties was a guard colonel, leaving only 2nd Lieutenant Mira to take command of the 203rd. Luckily for the Cadians, the greatest dudes in the entire world, the Ultramarines, arrived not too long after. Even better, they're led by a named Ultramarine, Captain Demetrian Titus of the 2nd Company. I bet you didn't know his first name was Demetrian, did ya? Titus made planetfall with his homies Sergeant Sidonus and infamous wet blanket loser Leandros. Their Thunderhawk was damaged on the way down, but luckily for them, Titus played the ancient simulation, Halo 3, and he knew about Master Chief's orbital jump. He said, yeah, that was pretty badass. Let's do it. The three got jump packs and jumped to the surface, leading to an awesome opening scene. Lamo Leandros, of course, objected. Titus coincidentally landed on Grimskull's personal ship, and he single handedly took it down by turning its own AA guns on itself. Stop hitting yourself, stop hitting yourself, stop hitting yourself. Shortly upon landing, or should I say crashing, Titus met up with Leandros, and Leandros had a little whiny bitch fit because he got a boo boo from the little jump pack stunt. Captain Titus, the Codex Extaris reprimands blindly jumping out of an airplane with a jump pack. And for good reason, too. I got an ouchie. Why would you make me do such a thing? Leandros, we did it because it was fucking rad. You should really try growing a pair, dude. Eventually, Titus and Lame Andros rendezvous with Sidonus and discover Lieutenant Mira's remnant guard force. Due to her leadership, the few hundred guardsmen were able to hold back the millions of orcs for about 2 weeks without any reinforcements. After Mira explained her situation, Titus and friends went to retake the orbital defense cannons so that the reinforcements could once again aid the withering Imperials. After cutting through a swath of orcs, the Blue Bessies retook the orbital gun, and by retake, I mean blew it to high heaven with some melted charges. This allowed some more Imperial reinforcements to make their way planetside. Afterwards, the Marines plan to liberate any surviving Titans before the Orcs get their grubby grin grippers on them. On the way there, they met a little servo skull belonging to Inquisitor Drogon. This dude never grew out of his emo phase and was in desperate need of help from the Marines and a talented barber. After even more fighting, the Blueberry Bunch found Drogon and learned of a powerful power source that powered the Manufactorum. Drogon informed them how urgent it was that the orcs did not get access to this. The power source is notable because it has an extreme output given its small size, proving size truly doesn't matter. The device was able to achieve these crazy ass outputs because it channeled energy from the warp. So then Titus went to the Manufactorum's generator to retrieve the power source. It was here where he met Grimskull for the second time. And just like how your brother decides he wants something only because you want it, Grimskull declared himself a material girl as he now wanted that power source, aka that sparkly thing, for himself. Then, again, much like you and your brother fighting over a shiny new toy, Grimskull ended up collapsing the entire generator room in his efforts to get the cool sparkly thing. The collapse separated Captain Titty from his boys, but he successfully secured the power source. Topside, things got even more dire for the Imperials as their void blockade was broken by the Orc forces, and even more greenskins dropped planetside. Upon reuniting with the Inquisitor, Drogon explained how Titus should not have been able to handle the unshielded power source since it emanates wacko levels of warp energy, and should theoretically kill anyone who handles it. Psst, this is something called foreshadowing. The Inquisitor also finally revealed his super secret research project to the Space Marines as the Warp Scourge was Graia's only shot at repelling the ever-increasing Orc forces. So once again, they set off to the next level, I mean building, so that they could connect the power source to the Scourge and eliminate the Orc menace. Yes, I have a massive weapon that will blow the Orcs' minds. Yes, the Orcs love weapons. I'm sure they'll be quite impressed with such a thing. No, I mean literally blow their minds. Oh. Does the Codex Astarte support this action? The Ultra Besties fought their way to Drogon's lab and inserted the power source into the weapon's generator. But the Orcs had damaged some of the conduits, and the Marines needed to realign them for some more epic gameplay. Once realigned, the Psychic Scourge began to power up and it fired towards Graia's orbital spire. As the Scourge's beam hit the spire, Grimskull arrived in his ship. He began to attack the Marines when the shockwave from the blast hit and knocked everyone to the ground. To Titus's dismay, the Orcs' minds were in fact not blown, and they were just a bit dazed. Then, as Team Titus prepared to face Gang Grimskull, a chaos portal suddenly opened and a host of bloodletters swarmed out, killed the Orcs, and pushed Grimskull off a ledge. From the portal emerged Chaos Lord Nemeroth, and he was met with Inquisitor Drogon. It was then revealed that the Blue Besties were tricked, bamboozled, and some would even say hoodwinked. They learned that Nemeroth sent a demon to possess the wounded Inquisitor, and with the help of the unwitting Space Marines, Puppet Drogon recalibrated the Psychic Scourge. Instead of killing all the Orcs as promised, the Scourge was set to channel warp energies into opening a Chaos Portal via the orbital spire. There was a dude inside of you? Never trust the Inquisition. Nemeroth does a classic villain monologue telling Team Titus how they're a bunch of dumb stupid heads and they played right into my plan. He attempts to kill the captain and he remarks how Titus is resistant to his touch. No worries, Nemeroth, I too have found that Titus are resistant to my touch. But then, suddenly, Grimskull climbs back up from the abyss and he attacks the Chaos Lord. After a little tussle with the muscle, Grimskull and Nemeroth pull Acadia and they fall off a cliff. And it should be noted that Grimskull fell down the same exact cliff he just climbed up. Like, just imagine you're Grimskull. You go to fight some Beaky, then some weird purple blast knocks you over. No big deal. Didn't even hurt. Just a little fall. You get up to kill him once more. Then some random ass portal opens. Some demons kill your buddies. They jump you. They push you off like a 300-foot cliff or something. I don't know. But, okay, whatever. You're the toughest. You're the baddest. You King Kong climb up the cliff like a freaking champion to get your sparkly thing. You finally get up there. Some nerd is talking to your Marine. He's about to steal your kill. So you punch him in the face, and then, just your luck, after a little scuffle, you fall down the same exact cliff. It was not his day. So then, after a little altercation, the Marines regroup and reclaim the power source. Team Titus decides that the only way to ward off the chaos invasion that they caused and prevent the warp portal from growing catastrophically large was to use the power source to supercharge the Titan Invictus in order to Jenga the Spire and collapse the growing warp portal. They reunited with Lieutenant Mira, and the Cadians and Marines made their way towards Invictus. But they got surrounded on all sides by Orc and Demon forces, so the Cadians were forced to fall back to Bastion Primus in order to regroup. Once again separated from his crew, Titus made his way to the Manufactorum. On the way there, he was ambushed by Boss Grimskull and they had an epic boss fight. Unfortunately for the little green guy, things began to look grim for the war boss as Titus shot him in the skull. R.I.P. Grimskull. You were the realest one there ever was, and you always put a grin on my skull. Does that make sense? I don't know, whatever, orc logic. With Grimskull dead, though, the Orc forces lost coherency and were unable to make any coordinated attacks. With the Greenskins crippled, Lieutenant Mira was able to retake the area. As always, the Marines fought their way through the hordes of enemies, got to the Manufactorum, activated the super weapon, etc., etc. You know the drill by now. With the power source supercharging the Titan's volcano cannon, it was able to destroy the spire in a single blast and close the warp gate, stranding Nemeroth and his Chaos forces on Graia. Soon after the portal was severed, the rest of the Imperial Liberation Fleet made its way to Graia and deployed reinforcements. The Blood Ravens, Black Templars, Ultramarines, and Guardsmen led a massive counter-assault on the remaining Chaos holdout in the Spire. Titus wanted to go a bit nuts on the Chaos Forces, so he gave Sidonus the power source to bring back to the chapter. However, Sidonus didn't get too far before Nemeroth came through a portal, murdered the sergeant, and took the power source for himself. No, it should have been Leandros! Ah! With the power source, Nemeroth could ascend to demonhood and would be near unstoppable to the Imperial forces on Graia. After some monologuing, Nemeroth revealed that Titus is special in the way that he can resist Nemeroth's chaotic powers. And here I want to go on a little side tangent. Here's my little theory. A lot of people say that Titus is a blink, and that's why he's able to resist chaos. However, I think it would make a lot more sense and be a lot more interesting if he was a latent psyker. Why do I think this? Well, first, there are many things that go against Titus being a blink. Blinks are usually described as having no psychic presence. This means that they usually can't be affected at all by psychic powers, and they can't be corrupted by chaos. This is directly contradicted by events in the game. On multiple occasions, Nemeroth and other psykers are able to hurt Titus or stop him with psychic powers. Additionally, Nemeroth also makes multiple attempts to corrupt Titus and make him join the forces of chaos. Leandros also worries about Titus getting corrupted, but he's kind of a stupid dickhead, so we could ignore that. So, now consider the latent psyker angle. Not only would this be more interesting from a gameplay perspective, just like imagine if halfway through Space Marine 2 we could start using some low-level psyker abilities, but it's also more consistent with what the game presents. While it is true that psykers are usually more susceptible to chaos corruption, psychic energies can be nullified by psykers with strong enough willpower. We know that Titus is ultra loyal and has super strong will, so that totally fits. Even if he is unknowing, it's plausible to say that he might be subconsciously doing this. Additionally, Nemeroth directly says that Titus's resistance to him is likely due to particularly deep connections to the warp. This supports his hiker theory while also directly contradicting the blink theory, since blinks have no connection to warp whatsoever, and some would even say they have a negative connection. But that's just a theory, a Space Marine game theory. Thanks for watching. Wait, actually, don't go. The game story's not over yet. So, with Sidonus dead and Nemeroth ascending to demonhood, Titus set out to kill Nemeroth once and for all. After a little Thunderhawk ride, Titus caught the Chaos Lord as he was turning into a prince. No, not that one, a demon prince. Then, the absolute mad lad Titus fought the demon prince with just a chain sword, bolt pistol, and his can-do attitude. He charged the demon prince, sending both of them flying off a cliff. Is this game Tekken or something? What is with it and its obsession with falling off cliffs? After beating the shit out of Nemeroth for like 5 minutes straight, this lunatic Titus rips the Demon Prince's head off with his bare hands, tears the power source apart, and probably breaks like half of his fused ribs when he lands in a Thunderhawk. In the Thunderhawk, Mira remarks how she now sees that Ultramarines are human after all. Which, second tangent, Mira, when exactly did it strike you that Titus was a human after all? Was it when he ripped a Demon Prince's head off with his bare hands? Or was it maybe when he pretty much single-handedly killed an entire army? Or maybe it was when he landed from like a mile-long fall with relatively minor injuries? When was it? And I know she means like seeing a demigod injured shows that they're still mortal, but Titus is an insane crazy man. Then, to spoil Titus's sweet victory, the Inquisition arrives with the Templars and fucking Leandros. Turns out that Leandros tattled on Titus and believes him to be warp tainted. Titus submits to the Inquisition in order to protect Mira and her forces, and it left us with a 13-year-long cliffhanger. Again with the damn cliffs. But luckily for us, Bolt Gun and community articles have filled in some of the gaps between Space Marine and its sequel. In between the two games, Titus was tested and tortured by Inquisitor Thrax. Even though every single test proved that Titus was clean as a whistle, the torture lasted nearly a century until the Inquisitor was killed for being chaos corrupted. After being freed, Titus was evaluated once again, and after being deemed loyal for like the millionth time, he served in the Death Watch. On an operation, he was mortally wounded, but luckily, Chief Librarian Tigerius of the Ultramarine chapter sensed Titus's soul, once again disproving the blank theory. The Librarian found Titus, rescued him, and made him into a Primaris Marine in order to save him from his injuries. Titus was finally reunited with his home chapter and given the rank of Second Lieutenant, just like his old guard bestie Mira. And with that, those were the events of the Space Marine game, and everything that you need to know before playing Space Marine 2. It's a somewhat basic story, but it's really a super fun game that holds up today. My only real complaint with it would be that some of the weapons feel just like a teensy bit weaker than I feel that they should, but it makes sense from a gameplay perspective. You can't really have the default weapon be a crazy exploding one-shot machine. So I totally recommend trying the game out, and also, Leandros is a total loser guy. Screw Leandros! But that's all I've got for today. I hope you enjoyed this recap of the Space Marine game. I'm super hyped for the long-awaited sequel, and I hope it lives up to and exceeds the first. As always, please like, comment, subscribe, and consider sharing with your favorite Ultramarine buddies. Thank you everyone for supporting the channel, and thank you to the Patreons who support the channel a bit more. I really appreciate you. Also, on the topic of gaming, my channel does have a Discord server, and we're going to start hosting some monthly painting competitions. There's not really any prizes other than telling your friends how freaking awesome you are, but it'll be a really fun time, I think. So, if that interests you, the link's in the bio. Thanks. If Warhammer ever did a Fortnite collab or any other major collab, it would be so funny if the only skins were Leandros and some like random servitor or something.